So today we're going to go over my top 5 in each position. We're going to go on more value for position rather than necessarily your top of the top, because naturally you could put R9 in, you can put someone like a Jarzinho at right wing, you can go with the Bales, which most people can't afford. So we're going to go with the top 5 that I've got. Now we do have to be very careful because the menus are still a little bit crashy, so we have to put them in individually. We will go by position and we'll kind of go with what I've got and also a couple of concepts. The first one on this team sheet in terms of the goalkeepers will be Donnarumma. We'll put them all in and then kind of discuss each one of their kind of brilliance that you can obviously bring to the table. So I think when we look at the next one, Courtois is going to be an easy one to put in there. And then you've also got to have an argument, it's Alisson as well. I think since Ederson has changed, unfortunately he is now a little bit further down on that list in general, so that is a bit of a shame for him, just the fact that he's left. But then we have got Mignan, who has recently got an inform, so you could go for higher rated versions of them as well, but naturally it depends on what you're going for in terms of the price bracket. And the final one coming in as a keeper, we are looking at another Premier League keeper in Raya. Now, all keepers have been used. To be honest, we've probably gone through every single one of them by now. The icons are great, and don't get me wrong, people will always say you can get like a Schmeichel from the matchday pick, and I don't ever dispute the fact that they are going to be incredible, because when you do look at a lot of these keepers, like you look across the list, you kind of got Yashin at 435, Buffon at 470, Casillas 450. Like, there's a reason why they're still this high in price, not the fact that they are not available in icon packs at the moment because it is a max 89, but the fact that you could have one of them and then that could do you for team of the year. 100% it can do, but so can the golds. I just think when we know that they have not got an upgrade, it doesn't make them any better or worse. I mean, Courtois, Donnarumma, Alisson, for years on years have been most people's keepers until at least team of the year, where you've got quote-unquote the next best keeper is the easiest one to get as such, compared to trying to get an Mbappe team of the year, which obviously is a comparison that is just crazy in itself. But when it does look at these keepers, they are the best of the business. Now, if I was ranking them in general, I think Donnarumma has to be my favourite. He has been just... He's always been the interesting one, because I do think Alisson is fantastic, and I do like the rush out from Alisson, and it will depend on the playstyle plus you like. Like, obviously, you've got far throw, footwork, cross-claimer, 1v1 close down, which is the new rush out, far reach, and deflector. Now, rush out was my playstyle plus from last year. Like, that is absolutely number one on the list, and this year it definitely is as well. I just think Donnarumma is... I don't know, the deflector just seems to work very, very well this year. And yes, load rivens in general are very difficult to come up across. It will be interesting to see if we do get a double keeper playstyle plus this year, not just a long ball pass or a pinged pass. It will be interesting to see, could we get a rush out and a deflector, or a rush out and a footwork? That's where we get into kind of a different keeper. So all of them in their own merit are very good. I personally would look at a Donnarumma in this level. So if you're looking for coins, head over to eldorado.gg. There is huge amounts of verified sellers on Eldorado, and there is a money back guaranteed by Trade Shield. If that's not enough, there is 24/7 live support and also plenty of reviews across websites that will definitely put your mind at ease. And as always, before you check out, make sure that you are using the code JT11 for 5% off every single order. Back to the video. Now we move on to left backs. Now, left backs are very much an interesting bag, because there is a lot of Evos now, and there is most definitely multiple choices that you can go with. If I start putting them in, obviously Jordi Alba is one of the first on that team sheet. He is immaculate for the price that you can pay for him. He's on my other account that is predominantly my SBC account, whereas this is kind of the main that really just focuses on just trying to get as many packs and Campbell packs as you possibly can get. Next up on that list would be, if I can find him, a bit of Baude, but I would go with his normal 83. The 86 great, but the price that you're paying, the fact that now, and I still need to put him on this account, is I need to put him in that Evo, where basically you can turn him into like an 86 already with the Protect the Wings, I think it's called. Protect the Wings, and you look at some of the popular players. Of course, we get to verify in 2 clicks, but we do have the likes of these players now that are just immaculate. It's just so easy to throw in. Like, you've got a Furlan Mendy, obviously you got Dorgu if you're going for the Man U, and that was the hardest bit to go with, is the fact that you've got so many top-end left-backs. But Baude has been my chemistry person. He's been the person that works out very, very well for me. If then we were looking at other left-backs, I think you've naturally got to throw in the Nuno Mendes debate. He is the highest rated gold and possibly the best left-back that you can get in gold when it comes to it, depending on obviously what you're looking for. We then also have got ourselves a Theo Hernandez. Now, he's not necessarily as crazy as last year. He's definitely dropped out of love, but whether that is purely on the fact that he has dropped in league in comparison to being in the Serie A, but still right now you can see him in that 86. He's still going to be fantastic. Like, he's got everything you need. He's definitely got to be in there as one of the better ones as well. And then you've kind of got the debate. For me personally, the fact that you can get him in an SBC, or at least could put him in there in comparison. Like, we've got Furlan Mendy, would be the likely 5th choice that I've got. But the fact that you can get him in an SBC, or like I say, could have, I don't know, I think it's gone by now. Lizarazu definitely stands out. Now, obviously with him, he is a bit more expensive than everybody else, bar from maybe Jordi Alba, and I'm kind of trying to stay away from a lot of heroes in the topper end, because naturally they are very much more expensive than your golds, and they just produce only slightly better at times. I'm thinking for the masses, you've got a great budget here. You've got kind of your 2 higher rated budgets in Lizarazu and Alba. You've then got Nuno Mendes coming in at that 30-40k mark, maybe even lower by the time this comes out. And then Baude and Theo are as cheap as anything. So personally for me, it's quite an array of talent that you can find. And I do think for me, Jordi Alba really kind of kicks it at this point. The one thing that I do like with Jordi Alba now is the fact that if you didn't do this SBC like this account, you could potentially go and get him into that 86 Evo and utilize his inform. The inform is pence in comparison to what you pay him. So you look at this as the 84, you're paying 16,000 coins, you go into the Evo builder, you go to protect the wings to make him into an 86, we verify that we're a human, and then naturally when you do look at him in comparison to his 88, it's not that much crazier. Like, really, it's just a handful of stats. Like, you look at your overall, 2 extra on your dribbling, loses out in the defensive awareness, obviously intercept, all of that, a bit of strength, loses a bit of strength, and then obviously gains, well, no, he gains the strength, in fact, sorry, the other way around. He gains his stamina, his jumping, and his aggression, but gains a 10 strength. I don't think that's a bad alternative as well, and it's why sometimes, especially these accounts, I try and do it on one and not necessarily on both, unless it's like a no-brainer. I don't think this one was a no-brainer with how Inter Miami are playing. They're bound to get some sort of special cards, and Jordi Alba has managed to really kind of think, well, I could either go and do 182k SBC, or I could go pay 42k to get very similar. 86 still as well, so still 2 ratings behind him, leading for another Evo at some point. So there is a lot that you can go with there, and I think left backs, these are the ones that I personally would choose, but there is obviously still options. Leave the comments down below if there is another option for you. Now, to be honest, right backs, very, very similar in my eyes. I don't think there's necessarily a crazy standout that I'm like, everybody has got this one person, but there is probably about 7 or 8 that you see consistently in teams. Hakimi is normally one of them, and it tends to be when people have got Dembele. They've got the whole trio there with Nuno Mendes, Dembele, and also Hakimi to get the links, and obviously one centre-back that's coming up. You've got Kounde as a right-back, phenomenal in himself. We then have, going a bit further down, we look at the likes of Reece James. Again, incredible when it looks at it. Then obviously we've got the 84 Wizard, who did get an inform, but the inform is marginally a bit more expensive. We do look at the 84 on Llorente. Again, fantastic right back. Again, can go into the 86, so always brilliant once more. And the final one we're going to be looking at, he is the cheapest of cheap, and he is tried and tested. He's 83, and it is our boy Frimpong. And again, we got an array of kind of pricing. I know Hakimi is coming in slightly more expensive. Kounde has got the versatility of centre-back as well. Llorente's got more versatility than it comes out of his ears. He can play centre-mid, right back, and I believe there's another position you can put him in his inform as well. So he has got everything going for him. Frimpong, obviously, with his 86, bit expensive compared to what you're kind of expecting for a card. Obviously that one is a right wing that still plays right back, but he's at 140,000. Whether you'd want to keep it as a quick step plus, I don't think it's necessarily awful. Llorente's upgrade is now 290, so he is dropping slightly, but very, very slightly. 290 for him, or 17 for his base. You obviously then have Kayunde, who is going to come in as kind of your medium at 50, which is still expensive, but like I say, jockey plus, and the fact that he can play centre-back as well, which is not a terrible position for him. And then Hakimi at 63. So we've got a pretty high end on this one. For me personally, Kayunde's been kind of the saviour in this team. He has been absolutely magnificent. So he most definitely is going to be in question. I think if I was blindly doing this and just following rating, I think Hakimi would throw himself in. But it all depends on what you're kind of going for. I think if you want that solid right back that really does the work, I personally would go with Kayunde. When it comes to attacking wing backs and it comes to left back, right backs pushing up and being that kind of focal point of attacking as well as the wingers, I don't think there's any question between Nuno Mendes and Hakimi. They're both exceptional at it. Same as the 86 Frimpong. You can't argue with that. But the way I personally like to defend, I like to have the back four. I don't really need them venturing up more because I can play with my left mid, my right mid, who are left wing and right wing, and then a cam and two strikers, or a cam and a striker. I'm more than happy to attack with 4 and keep 5 back rather than necessarily pushing everybody up and leaving 3 back. It just, my defensive ability isn't that great. Then we move on to the centre backs. This is where we've kind of got quite a few because there's 2 positions to fill. And again, I don't think it's necessarily too difficult. I think VVD is obviously a name that you've got to throw up there. Definitely not first on the team sheet this year, which is absolutely massive for any game. Like, he is normally the first person that's ever mentioned in, like, he's already in the team. Saliba would be another one who I think would be my right-hand man at this point. He has been in the team the longest and just been incredible. Marquinhos is another one that I think is, from a pro's perspective, as well as been a focal point for a lot of people. Again, when it comes to him, I don't think there's really too many arguments. Icons are definitely there. Like, don't get me wrong, Vidic has got to be one of them in terms of his Bruiser Plus. What he's added to the game is absolutely massive. Now, yes, he's a bit more expensive than everybody else, so I try and kind of limit how many players, because I could just throw in a Maldini, Yapstam, and there's the question done. There's no arguments with them. But then when you do look a bit further down, and I'm kind of going a way bit further down, you are looking at the likes of a Militao if we get to these 84s. As, again, more of your cheaper option, can go into an evolution. There is 100k evolution, so not the craziest over the wingers that have made basically a beautiful centre-back. Whether you'd prefer the inform of a Militao, for instance, if we do go over, you'll be able to see him coming in as his 87 at 736. Again, magnificent. You've got the 86 at 289. If we was to just take the 84 as the example, we do have the I'll Protect You, which again is coming in at 100,000 coins. It's not that crazy in terms of price. I mean, that's a little bit expensive in comparison, but we look at him in terms of what he can kind of offer now. You look at him compared to that 87, we gain the free pace on obviously the prime time. He can still go up as well, so that's a big thing. Shooting, I'm not too fussed about. He loses free passing and he gains 2 defending. So realistically, if you like the Anticipate, which I think is a brilliant playstyle plus, rather than the Intercept, which again is still a very good playstyle plus, you could argue that if he doesn't go any further in the prime time, which obviously Real Madrid are, then really you've kind of got the next best thing for him. It's better than the 86. He's obviously still an immaculate centre-back, but it's 100,000 coins. I think really you dial that down to about 50, and I'd say it's a bit more acceptable. So it is that question of an evolution of the pricing versus what it's actually given you. And I think this is the highest we've had for every evolution. In fact, I think this is possibly the highest evolution. Another one that's obviously got to be in the names, Van der Ven is absolutely there. And then I think from there, I'd probably go VVD, Saliba, Marquinhos, obviously, and then possibly I'd throw a little name in the mix in a bit of Pacho. I really don't think he's a bad one. He's kind of your B-Tech Vidic at this point, with obviously the Bruiser Plus. He comes in quite nice, and I think the first name is obviously got to be Marquinhos. I can't really argue with the pros. He has been exceptional for me. Does make it a little bit harder to get the links unless you've got Brazilian players already in your team. You kind of need that other link to be able to go with it, there's still plenty of names. You've got Vitinha, João Neves, you've got Doué, Dembele, more expensive. Then your Nuno Mendes, your Hakimi, and then throw it in maybe a little bit of Kvaratskhelia. You could even go the keeper. I must admit, is it Chevalier? I don't know how to pronounce his name, but he's been pretty decent against me as well, so I really couldn't argue that name. Now, looking at kind of what you've got, VVD is always going to be immaculate. They upgraded him to his captains, and they sorted that agility balance out. Everything's right and rainy with him. But that's like 1 point something mil, so realistically, he's out the question. I think Saliba's got the shout. I really think he's got to be up there. Militao, a little bit on the cheaper option. I think Van der Ven is crazy for how good he is as an 82. He is literally the centre-back form of Ferland Mendy 4 years ago. He is just brilliant at everything he does, and he's even got upgrades. But I don't think I can really argue with Vidic. He has been exceptional. He's going to be the highest option. I think next on that list would be a Saliba. So it's kind of just down to what you personally want. But Vidic as an icon, what he brings to the table is always going to be incredible. Then we move into the midfield. So we're going to go with the centre mids. Obviously, it depends on how you run the centre mids. It could be DMs, CMs, or cams. I'm going to try and get a balance of both. Personally, for me, I play with 1 cam and 2 CDMs, but I like one of the CDMs to be kind of your box-to-box-esque CDM, so it'd be like almost having like a De Jong or a Reyners there. So we're going to kind of throw a few names out there, and I think the 2 names that you've always got to throw in a midfield when you talk about them is going to be in the Liga F. I don't think there's any question with their ability. We look at Putellas and also Bonmati. They are exceptional. And I do think you could even extend that slightly to a Patry as well. I don't think she's really out of place. The only thing that I found with her personally is I had her as the box crasher because she does have the box crasher plus. The only issue with her is the stamina is only 78. By 60 minutes, she's absolutely blowing. She needs to be subbed. So, unfortunately, I won't show her the price that I paid for her because she was expensive. She's a little bit expensive and I never got rid of her. It's a bit of a whoopsie on my part. But then we kind of go back into the Prem. I think, again, you kind of look at midfielders, and I think the one that really sticks out more than anybody has got to be from Man City. And to be honest, I do think Rice could be an argument there. As a box crasher himself, I think he is absolutely brilliant. But it would be Reyners. I think you're looking at your kind of Dutch midfielders. Reyners is absolutely brilliant at that role. And he literally reminds me of the next person on the list, and that is going to be De Jong. I think De Jong is, again, without question, one of the best midfielders that you can get. The tiki-taka plus is absolutely brilliant. And if we do continue in that link of La Liga, I think you've got Bellingham, you've obviously got Valverde, and you do have a bit of Pedri as well. I think every kind of major league has somebody that they offer. You go to, obviously, Ligue 1, you've got the likes of Vitinha, you've got the likes of now Pogba that you could throw in, and you've also got João Neves. Then you've obviously got the likes of, in Serie A, you've kind of got like your Barellas, you've got more heroes than anything. You got the Kalanoglu, you've got Yildiz if you're throwing him into a cam role. I don't think he's an argument really that you could kind of go against. McSauce, love him, he's going to get a star performer for that exceptional performance in Scotland in general. What a performance to get to that World Cup. Absolutely magic. De Bruyne's obvious upgrade. Even Zambo, Kone. There's lots and lots of names, but one that I've really liked that might not be everybody's cup of tea, but he's been brilliant for me, and that is going to be our boy Park Ji-sung. He has been brilliant. So a lot of midfielders to kind of go through, and trying to keep them balanced, it would be quite easy to just go with a Putellas or Bonmati. I think if you're looking at price perspective, I think De Jong has to be a name on that sheet. There is, without a question, I absolutely love him as a midfielder. He has been brilliant. He's 65,000 still, so very, very expensive. I do think Reyners has most definitely come down in price on this one at 31. Still got the tiki-taka, now in the Prem, so there's arguments for it. I do think that De Jong is better in that argument, and I think if I was looking specifically now for more of your DM, I think Caicedo as a cheap option would be a nice one. Patry, again, would be a nice option. And I do think when you're looking at kind of what De Jong offers, the deep line playmaker as a CM is absolutely wonderful. You've then got kind of your more passing options in a Pedri. You've obviously got Vitinha who can do it. Bellingham who pushes the ball forward. You then obviously got Park Ji-sung who's been in my cam role with loads of role pluses. So he can be just an asset everywhere. If obviously I go and find a evolution that gives him an extra roll plus, I have an array of positions that can offer that, and I think he's been in the team for a few matches actually. He's done very well. He's almost like a second striker in that role. So a shadow striker plus would be magnificent for him. Obviously Caicedo's been another one that's been just an absolute godsend in terms of a midfielder. Again, relatively cheap in there. Bonmati, Pateas are kind of more your attacking option. You've got your playmaker plus for both of them. And I think if I was looking at a second, Valverde really does offer that same level. He's kind of the upgrade onto a De Jong, in my opinion. So it would possibly have to be one of the women. I think Bonmati, Pateas would be the options. And I think for me, Pateas would win it out. I love Bonmati in this game, but Pateas has always been the one I actually get, to be honest. I got her in a team of the year. She was phenomenal, but she's always been the one that comes first, more so than Bonmati. Bonmati's always been that second string, even though the Ballon d'Or winner, always been that second string, which is always crazy. And I think if I was going for third, I think it'd possibly be a Bellingham in terms of carrying the ball forward. Now we go on to the left wing. This is where it kind of gets a bit more fun. With attacking players, there is, again, so many options. It's unbelievable. Now, one of the best for the price that you're going to pay, still quite expensive, I believe, has got to be Rafinha. Now, if we do look at his price specifically, he is that kind of that merging gap between him and someone like a Vinny. Vinny's obviously the number one shout. I don't think there's any arguments with him. But when you're looking at almost $500,000, it becomes less value for money. So Rafinha is definitely that bridge in the gap in the Brazilian side. Nico Williams has got to be the next one. In my opinion, I don't think there's really many arguments with him. If we then throw ourselves down to the Serie A, even though he's took a massive hit on rating, 84 Leao is, again, another phenomenal player that you can throw in there. If then we kind of look across, we've got going into the Liga F, again, absolutely exceptional player that does have so many links that you can go with. That's obviously got to be Salma. 84 rated, brilliant. And then I'd say, if I'm going to throw a rogue shout here, it can't be his base version. I think his base version now is kaput. It's absolutely non-accessible. But if you have got the Evo form of him, I do think you could easily throw in a little bit of Marcus Rashford. I think as an 84, if you can get him into an 85 or an 86 yet, he has been brilliant as an Evo, as a past and present United, as a La Liga player that you can go with. I don't think there's much arguments with him. I think he's been absolutely brilliant with what he can offer. We are just waiting for that next upgrade for him. Now, personally for me, I've managed to get out the 84 campaign pick. Very, very lucky in getting Nico Williams 87. I don't think it's necessarily worth the money of the upgrade. If you do look at the comparison between the two, you've obviously got the 87 coming in at 944,000. We are looking at a one upgrade on everything, bar from defending and physical. We have got no playstyle plus differences, no playstyle differences. We've gained a few roles, which is fair enough. Obviously, he gained that. He's got the rapid plus. That is not a 900k difference card. 100%. If you are paying 944,000 coins liquid into this card, you are mental, because there is just no difference in this card. But if you've managed to get him untradeable, that's a little bit different. But I would say it still is going to be a bit of Rafinha in this role. Every time I play against him, he is just magic on the ball. He obviously comes in with stats and skills that you just can only imagine. A 4-star that hopefully does evolve into the 5-5 at some point. He has got the rapid plus, some very good stats across the board, play styles that you need. You could add a low driven, which would be fantastic, and he does have the inside forward plus. I think he is just wonderful. That being said, Salma, if you're obviously linking Liga F players, Leao, if you're going in the Serie A, if you're looking at Prem is probably the hardest one, actually, in terms of wingers. I think you've got a couple. Mainly, you've obviously got Hazard if you're going for all-out price. We're looking at Harry Kewell. I've got, he's been in the team for a while. I don't think Gordon's a bad card, to be fair to him. He does come in, I believe, with a nice composure upgrade. As an overall, I don't think he's terrible. He's a bit high priced, I believe. Doku's going to be one that would be interesting for an Evo point of view. But the left wing is kind of just left alone. It's kind of your right wing that you need. You got Gakpo, I suppose, but again, I like him in the middle more so than anything. Which then leads us over to the right hand side. And again, we've got multiple players that we can go through. And I think if we are going to look at kind of your right wingers in general, you've just got exceptional players. Like Doué is going to be one of them. I think Yamal has got to be arguably one of the ones that everybody seems to have. I don't know how, I don't know why, but Yamal is just there. He's always going to be there. I do think Doué, I will kind of go with his different positions. We do have him as the 86 or 7, the rating reloads, again through a campaign pick. So whether I would spend the money extra, I do think it at least is a slightly better card in some aspects. But whether he is worth the money is kind of that different question. We then go ourselves back to Liga F, because you've obviously got to get in the female equivalent of Messi. You got Hansen. She is phenomenal. Again, pricing wise might be a bit expensive. If you're looking in the Prem, who's slightly cheaper this time round, we are looking at our boy Salah. Forget that he's a right mid always. 891 rated, again expensive. And then if you're kind of throwing in that last debate, you are throwing into the D1 league this time round. And again, I think she's right wing now. We are obviously looking at Diane. Now, price-wise, we're going to kind of go through them. You look at Doué as a kind of a cheaper version, but now looking at his 87, you got 300,000. Slightly more upgrade than Nico, but still not crazy. Goes for the trickster to the technical. He has got the 5-4, an extra playstyle with a quick step instead, and then he does have, well no, in fact not the quick step, he's got the trickster as the normal playstyle, whereas he doesn't have the technical as a normal playstyle, and he gets a few more rolls. Obviously, like I say, we've got him untradeable, fantastic. We then move into Yamal, who I believe has taken a massive tumble now, down to 74,000. Very affordable. We do have the 89 that is just incredible with that prime time. Hansen's going to come in as one of the more expensive ones, but still not crazy compared to a couple of years ago. She was major money, and I still think she still holds that level of kind of what you're looking at. Salah obviously now coming in at 150, which is why he's included. 300 and above might be out the question, and Diane is going to be possibly one of the better values for money that you can get. The 16,000 coins with what she offers is always going to be crazy. Now, if I was looking at price per gallon, I'm looking at what the value is. I don't think there's any question that Hansen and Salah are possibly the two the most talented in terms of in the game. But I do think Yamal will obviously take this one. In terms of what you're getting back versus the price that you're paying, I do think Yamal would argue it for me, and that's purely because I managed to back him. He's been absolutely wonderful for me in that right-hand side. He's done goals, all of it predominantly high-end rivals or champs. Very rarely ever put him in a squad battle, so he has been undoubtedly one of the better stars that we can get, and hopefully do get that weak foot upgrade to get him into that 4-star at some point. Then we move on to the strikers, the final two positions. Again, I don't think there's really any arguments for the number 1 spot. She has been broken beyond belief because the low driven on her is just phenomenal. And that is going to be Pina. I don't think there's really any surprise. Always forget that she's a left wing to start with. 86 rated. She does have her higher version. Again, not necessarily worth it. I don't think I need to even put anybody else in because we know that she is the most used striker in this game, full stop. And I do think then a lot do come from the Prem, and we're kind of not talking Mbappe level, like Dembele, Mbappe, millions of coins. They're just not going to be worth it. We've got the Newcastle version there. Obviously with Isaac, we will change him out because that one is completely extinct. We obviously have got the Liverpool variation. And then in the final Prem vote, we've obviously got a bit of Gyökeres. Again, argumentatively that they are all impeccable strikers. We did sell Isaac and then get him untradeable again, so he hasn't been used. Haaland's kind of my more bench striker, and Gyökeres has most definitely been the star-studded striker that unfortunately now is going to be slightly overtaken from Pina. She just offers so much with that low driven, I just can't not have her in the team. Then when you look across all the other leagues, obviously, like we say, Dembele is going to be there. Evo's most definitely like a Hugo Ekitike. I don't think in terms of what you can kind of get from him is ever a joke. Mateta as another cheap option you can throw in. Marmoush has been impeccable, but we go with the El Capitan Evo, and he's been brilliant. It's a great upgrade, makes him into a Shadow Striker++, which does suit the role very well. So again, there's always arguments for them. And then when you look across the board, we will go to the NWSL in a bit of Wilson. She has come down massively in price. But if we are looking across all leagues and kind of offering a bit of suggestion for all of them, like we said with Ligue 1, you could do the exact same with the El Capitan for a Kolo Muani, obviously moved to Spurs. Martinez is always an option. I think Højlund is not terrible. Thuram with an Evo, a little bit of Bonnie with the Evo as well is not bad. You've obviously got the likes of Kane as a captain, but bit more expensive. You obviously then have got the German player of the month coming in, and he's, I believe, got another upgrade as well that does come in very well. And then obviously La Liga, you've got your Mbappes, you've got your Lewandowskis. Lewandowski more with his inform. You could argue a bit of Alvarez as well. I don't think he's terrible in his base form. Bakumbu, I always liked him as a previous card, so always there. And then you've got the Rashford 86. Again, I don't think there's a bad argument for him. But I think if I was looking at kind of my personal favourite going in next to him, or next to her, in fact, I think Gyökeres has got to be one of my favourites. The Enforcer Plus on a medium rival level has always been phenomenal. The Enforcer Plus works very, very well. But then I think the arguments of a finesse shot does really kind of counteract that. So I think if I was looking at out of what I personally play with, I think Gyökeres would be there. I think finesse shot is still broken beyond belief, so Isaac has definitely got to be a tight second. Haaland, once he gets upgrades, which is slowly getting, and when we're talking like 92, 3, 4, he would definitely be up there in terms of the top player, but as a price per basis, I'd possibly go there. And obviously, like, you look at your El Capitans. If you're trying to put in, like if I was trying to do it with a Sesko, that's definitely going to be a brilliant option for him. And Wilson and Rashford would definitely be in there. So that is going to be the list. To be honest, chem-wise is not terrible. You're throwing Icon in there. You're doing pretty well. So let me know down below your per position. Leave it down below in the comments. And I'll catch you for that next one. Peace.